Hashtag Charlie Munger's brutal truth. Ladies, liquor, and leverage. Only one will destroy you. Smart men go broke 3 ways. Liquor, ladies, and leverage. That's Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man for over 60 years, dropping one of the most quoted lines in finance history. But here's the twist that most people miss. Warren Buffett clarified the real truth behind that quote. He said, the first 2 he just added because they started with L. It's leverage. Ladies and liquor? They're just window dressing. The real killer? Borrowed money. And Munger knew this from experience. Because before he became a billionaire, leverage of a different kind took everything from him. Let me explain. Most people don't know that Charlie Munger wasn't always wealthy. In fact, at age 29, he was broke, divorced, and devastated. It was 1953. Charlie had married his first wife, Nancy Huggins, right after World War II. They were young, he was 21, she was 19. And according to his daughter Molly, they utterly rushed into marriage. No idea of what they were doing. They had 3 kids. And when the marriage fell apart, the divorce hit Charlie like a freight train. He lost almost everything. The house went to Nancy. Charlie moved into what his daughter described as dreadful bachelor digs and drove an awful yellow Pontiac with a terrible repaint job. He was working insane hours as a young lawyer, trying to rebuild his life from scratch. Every Saturday, exhausted, he'd take his kids to the zoo, trying to be a good father while piecing his finances back together. And then life delivered the knockout punch. His 9-year-old son, Teddy, was diagnosed with leukemia. There was no treatment, no medical insurance. Charlie had to pay for everything out of pocket, watching his son die slowly while hemorrhaging money he didn't have. Can you imagine? You're broke, divorced, and now you're watching your child die while the medical bills pile up. Munger later said that period was the darkest time of his life. But here's what's remarkable. He didn't give up. He didn't make excuses. He just kept working. And when he eventually built his fortune, he made damn sure he'd never be vulnerable again. That's why he became so allergic to financial leverage. Now, here's the crazy part. Leverage doesn't just destroy ordinary people. It destroys geniuses. Let me tell you about long-term capital management, one of the most spectacular financial collapses in history. The year is 1998. LTCM was a hedge fund run by the smartest people on Wall Street. We're talking 2 Nobel Prize winners in economics, Myron Scholes and Robert Merton, plus John Meriwether, one of the most successful bond traders ever. Warren Buffett described them this way. If you take the 16 of them, they probably have as high an average IQ as any 16 people working together in one business in the country. These weren't amateurs. These were PhDs, rocket scientists, the elite of the elite, and they were crushing it. For 4 years, LTCM was making 40% annual returns. They thought they'd figured out the market. They'd built mathematical models that supposedly eliminated risk. So they did what smart people with mathematical certainty do. They levered up. Massively. At their peak, LTCM had $4.7 billion in capital. But they controlled $124 billion in assets. That's 26-to-1 leverage. And when you include their derivatives positions, their total exposure was over $1.25 trillion. $1.25 trillion. Then Russia defaulted on its debt. The markets panicked, and LTCM's risk-free models collapsed overnight. In 4 months, they lost $4.6 billion, basically everything. The fund imploded so catastrophically that the Federal Reserve had to organize a $3.6 billion bailout to prevent a global financial crisis. 2 Nobel Prize winners, the smartest traders on Wall Street, wiped out. Warren Buffett summed it up perfectly. History tells us that leverage all too often produces zeros, even when it is employed by very smart people. Charlie Munger was even blunter. A string of wonderful numbers times 0 will always equal 0. No matter how good you are, one bad bet with leverage erases everything. Fast forward to March 2021. Another genius investor. Another leverage disaster. His name is Bill Hwang. You've probably never heard of him, and that was by design. Huang ran a family office called Archegos Capital Management. At its peak, he personally controlled $36 billion in assets. $36 billion. Huang was one of the Tiger Cubs, elite investors trained by legendary hedge fund manager Julian Robertson. He'd already made a fortune once, lost it to insider trading charges, and built it back up again. But here's the thing. Huang used total return swaps to hide his positions. These are derivatives that let you control massive stock positions without actually owning the shares, and without disclosing them publicly. The banks, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, Nomura, had no idea how much leverage Huang was using across multiple firms. None of them knew he was leveraged 5-to-1, sometimes more. His portfolio was concentrated in just a handful of stocks. ViacomCBS, Discovery, Baidu. Not diversified, just massive leveraged bets. In March 2021, ViacomCBS announced they were selling new shares to raise capital. The stock started dropping. Huang's leveraged positions started bleeding. The banks called for more collateral. Huang couldn't pay, and what followed was one of the fastest wealth destructions in history. In 48 hours, 2 days, Bill Huang lost $20 billion. $20 billion. Gone. Credit Suisse lost $5.5 billion. Nomura lost $2.9 billion. Morgan Stanley lost nearly $1 billion. The collapse of Archegos even contributed to the eventual failure of Credit Suisse itself. And where's Bill Huang today? In July 2024, he was convicted on 10 counts of fraud, wire fraud, and market manipulation. He's facing up to 380 years in prison. This wasn't some inexperienced trader. This was a guy who'd already built and lost a fortune once. A guy trained by one of the greatest investors ever. And leverage destroyed him anyway. Chamath Palihapitiya, the billionaire venture capitalist, admitted publicly, "Charlie Munger's warning on leverage is so true. It almost broke me during the pandemic bull run. Even the best investors know leverage is the only way smart people go broke." So here's the question. If leverage can make you so much more money, why don't the best investors use it? Because they've done the math. And the math is terrifying. Buffett explained it in his 1998 speech. If you got $100 million at the start of the year, and you're going to make 10% unleveraged or 20% leveraged, what difference does it make at the end of the year whether you got $110 million or $120 million? None. It makes zero difference to your life. You're already rich. But the downside? The downside is losing everything. And not just your money, your reputation, your peace of mind, everything. Buffett said, "It's insane to risk what you have and need for something you don't really need." And Munger admitted something fascinating in a 2023 interview. Berkshire could easily be worth twice what it is now. All we had to do is use a little more leverage that was easily available. Wait, what? Berkshire could be twice as valuable? But they didn't do it. And Munger explained why. The extra risk you would have taken would have been practically nothing, but we didn't do it. Because even practically nothing risk with leverage can still wipe you out. And when you're already winning, why take that chance? Right now, Berkshire Hathaway sits on $334 billion in cash. More than their entire stock portfolio. They have more cash than most countries. Why? Because they never want to be in a position where someone else controls their destiny. They never want to be forced to sell at the worst possible time. That's what leverage does. It hands control to your lenders. And when things go bad, they pull the plug. You don't get to wait for the recovery. So let's come back to the original quote. Ladies, liquor, and leverage. Here's the real breakdown. Liquor *** is about impaired judgment. You make stupid decisions when you're drunk. But most people don't drink themselves into bankruptcy. Ladies *** or relationships, more broadly, can be expensive. Divorce cost Munger everything in 1953, but he rebuilt. You can survive heartbreak and financial loss from relationships. Leverage *** is different. Leverage is the only one that has no floor. You can lose everything you have and then keep losing, owing money you'll never make back. Munger conquered the first two through discipline and choosing the right partner the second time around. He married Nancy Berry in 1956, and they stayed together for 54 years until her death in 2010. But leverage, he avoided it entirely, not because he couldn't use it profitably, but because he'd seen too many smart people destroyed by it. As Buffett put it, if you're smart, you don't need leverage. If you're dumb, it'll ruin you. Look, here's the brutal truth Charlie Munger learned through tragedy and watching geniuses implode. Leverage is the only way smart people go broke. Not liquor, not relationships, borrowed money. 2 Nobel Prize winners leveraged up and lost everything. Bill Hwang lost $20 billion in 2 days. Entire banks collapsed because of one man's leverage. And Charlie Munger? He lost his house, his son, and nearly his sanity, but he never let financial leverage control his fate. When he built his fortune, he built it on his own terms. No leverage. No margin calls. No one could force him to sell at the bottom. That's the lesson. You don't need leverage to get rich. But leverage is the fastest way to get poor. The 3 L's are a catchy line. But only one of them will actually destroy you. And now you know which one. If this changed how you think about risk, smash that like button and drop a comment. Have you ever used leverage? Did it work out? Or did it nearly break you? Subscribe for more no BS financial wisdom from the legends who actually built fortunes and kept them. Charlie Munger survived divorce, the death of his son, and a complete financial wipeout. He rebuilt without leverage and died worth over $2 billion at age 99. The question is, are you willing to play the long game like he did? See you in the next one.